My father-in-law, mother-in-law, and sister-in-law were in a car accident. I called my wife, the medical examiner. It was not until the 80th call that she picked up the phone. It's Jing Yan's birthday. So what's wrong with me celebrating his birthday with him? Can you stop being petty and jealous? I told her that her parents and sister were in a car accident and asked her to come over to take care of the aftermath. But she sneered and said, "What does the death of your whole family have to do with me?" Not only did she not come out to take care of the aftermath, she also gave false testimony in court as a medical examiner for Baiyub Wang, who killed her whole family. Until I proposed to divorce her, she became angry and said, "Gu Ping, didn't your family just die, Jing, and didn't do it on purpose? Besides, it was your parents and sister who didn't look at the road that caused the accident. You are so aggressive and want to divorce me. I really misjudged you." Looking at her angry expression, I understood that she didn't know that her whole family was dead from beginning to end. Mother-in-law and sister-in-law were all knocked several meters away. The next second, flames shot up into the sky, and the sound of the car exploding pierced my eardrums. I froze in place, and the cold air rushed into my limbs. It took me a long time to react, and even the fingers that called the police were shaking. After calming down a little, I quickly called Jiangmin again, but the other party never answered the phone. It was not until I called for the 80th time that the other end of the phone was connected. But before I could say anything, Jianggan's impatient voice came out. "Didn't I tell you not to disturb me today? This is Jenny Ann's first birthday after returning to China, and I just want to accompany her well. Can you please not make trouble at this time?" Hearing Lin Jinny Ann's name, I subconsciously clenched my fingers, turned around and looked at my father-in-law and his family lying in a pool of blood behind me, and swallowed the words I wanted to question. My voice was a little anxious and trembling. My parents and sister were in a car accident. It's very serious. They need to be sent to the hospital for emergency treatment. Come quickly. I'll send you the address." Before I finished the rest of the sentence, Jianggang suddenly burst into laughter and said nonchalantly, "What does your family's car accident have to do with me? I'm not their daughter. It's not my turn to take care of them whether they live or die. Don't bother me because of this." A harsh, busy tone came from the other end of the phone. My breath stagnated. For the first time, I felt that Jianggang was so unfamiliar. The police who came saw my lost look, patted my shoulder, and asked me to follow the ambulance to the hospital first. Looking at my father-in-law's family being carried on a stretcher, my hanging hands were still shaking, and I was in fear. A few minutes before the car accident, my father-in-law said he was thirsty, so I got off the car to buy water at a nearby convenience store. Unexpectedly, when I came back, I saw my father-in-law's family being knocked more than 10 meters away. Everyone was hit beyond recognition. I don't know whether I should be glad that I escaped a disaster or sad that my father-in-law's family had such an accident. Just as I was recalling the circumstances of the car accident, my phone received a consumption record of up to 30,000 yuan. It was a store where I often bought ties. Jianggan definitely didn't buy them for me. She wouldn't even give me extra glances on weekdays. This morning, in order to celebrate Lin Jinyan's birthday, she had already put on exquisite makeup at home and put on a skirt that she was reluctant to wear before. Even when she was dating me before, she didn't take it so seriously. She just oft mocked me. We had been married for so many years. It's annoying enough to see your face every day. Makeup is a waste of time. Then another consumption X message came. This time it was from a restaurant that Jianggan I often go to. I tentatively called her again, but I didn't expect Jianggan to turn off her phone. I could only see her circle of friends that she had just updated, celebrating the birthday of the one you love. Even the cake becomes sweeter. Looking at Jianggan's intimate behavior of eating cake for Lin Jinyan, anger instantly enveloped my whole body. At this time, the lights in the operating room went out, and when the doctor came out, he shook his head at me, "My condolences." For a moment, my heart sank to the bottom. Although I was mentally prepared, after all, they were family members who had lived together for many years. It would be a lie to say that I was not sad. I looked at my phone again. Their daughter was still having fun. I sneered and asked the bank to freeze Jiangguang's card. After taking the statement, the police came to inform me that they had investigated the surveillance footage of the accident. I followed the police car to the police station. When I saw the surveillance video, I subconsciously widened my eyes, quickly turned back a few seconds, and froze on the vehicle that caused the accident. Even if it was just a blurry picture, I could recognize that it was Ling Jinyan, who had just returned to China. At this moment, the suppressed emotion suddenly burst out. From beginning to end, I was like a joke. It turned out that it was her first love who killed Jiangdan's family. I sneered. I don't know if Jiangdan will be in the mood to accompany her first love on his birthday after knowing this news. The police thought that I was in a state of emotional collapse because of the blow and patted my shoulder to comfort me. I wiped my face and said calmly, "I know this person, police comrade. I request an autopsy." I spoke very quickly. In the eyes of others, I was a good son-in-law who was unwilling to accept the death of his father-in-law's family. The police looked at each other and did not reject my request. As a family member, I was qualified to apply for an autopsy. Mr. Gu, we understand your feelings, but the surveillance video is not complete now, and we can't make a conclusion that Lin Jinyan is intentional homicide. We still need to continue to investigate this matter. You can go through the autopsy procedure first. I nodded, indicating that I was willing to assist the police in the investigation. After leaving the police station, I turned on my mobile phone and Jiang Guan's call immediately bombarded me. As soon as the call was connected, her voice was very cold. "You suspended my card? Guping, did I give you face? Why did you suspend my card?" "Because it is my salary card, Jianggan, but I need to remind you that all the money you are spending now is my money." Jianggan immediately fell silent, and when he spoke again, his tone softened a bit. "We are husband and wife. What is the difference between you and me? Today is Jin Yan's birthday. I have only seen him for so long and celebrated his birthday. In the end, he has to pay for it. Do you know how embarrassed I am?" She chattered in my ear, making me even more irritated. I couldn't bear it anymore and scolded her. "Have you said enough?" Perhaps she didn't expect me to speak so loudly suddenly. Jianggang was stunned for a second. "Gu Ping, you are so mean to me." Her voice was aggrieved, and she started sobbing soon. Jiangban has always been like this, not destined to be a princess, but full of princess syndrome. If anyone says a few words to her, she will start crying. In the past, when Jianggang showed this look, I would have immediately tried to cheer her up, and I would have generously given her all kinds of branded bags. But now, whenever I think of her spending her birthday with a murderer who murdered her entire family, I feel that the sincerity I once gave her has been trampled underfoot and is not worth it at all. "Mom and Dad are dead. Remember to come back to handle the funeral." I informed her in a cold tone, but I didn't expect her to say something even more shocking. "People will always die, and 3 people dying together is considered a reunion. You can handle the funeral, and there are many bodies to be dissected recently." She said this and hung up the phone. I slightly widened my eyes, and then I realized that she didn't seem to know that it was her parents who died. I pursed my lips and asked the police again, "Excuse me, can I designate the forensic doctor for the autopsy? Just take it as my last request." After leaving the police station and returning home, I asked the lawyer to draft an indictment. I had just sent out the indictment, and Jianggan, who said that there weren't any bodies to be dissected, unexpectedly returned home early. She pushed the door open angrily and threw the water cup on the table at me. The glass fragments exploded on the wall. Her chest heaved violently, and she pointed at my nose and cursed. "Gu Ping, can you have some shame? Jinyan didn't mean to kill your family. You can't vet your own an innocent person because of the death of your family. Lin Jinyan told you?" Xiaoman sneered. "I had just celebrated Jinyan's birthday when he was summoned by the police. On the way to the police station, he told me everything that happened on the road. He didn't mean it. He was just anxious to see me. Besides, if your parents were not old and didn't pay attention to the road, how could they have gotten into trouble? And it also implicated your sister." At this point, she realized that something was wrong with my expression, and her own softened slightly. "Gu Ping, don't be too sad. Things have happened. It's over. Just let it go. Don't make a big fuss or make it too embarrassing." "Oh, Jin Yanand, I agreed that we will compensate you 300,000 yuan and settle it privately." I was amused and looked at Jianggan with my eyes. My parents and sister's lives, each is worth 100,000 yuan? Jiangguan's face sank again after hearing what I said. She pushed me and warned in a low voice, "Don't be shameless. 100,000 yuan is already a lot. Your parents are old, and you will have to take care of them often in the future. Now that they're dead, you have saved a lot of trouble. Giving you 300,000 yuan is equivalent to taking money for nothing." Jiangmen's attitude seemed to tell me that no matter what, she would stand by Lin Jinyan and she would believe whatever Lin Jinyan said. My heart ached slightly, and I smiled at Jiangga. I believe the law will prove everything. Seeing my firm attitude, Jianggan gritted his teeth and snorted coldly. Your kindness is taken for granted. Don't blame mothers when you lose the lawsuit. With a bang, Jiangguan slammed the door and left. Jiangguan's words were full of confidence, as if she was certain that I would lose the case. It was not until the trial that I finally understood why she was so sure. On the day of the trial, the solemn court was packed with people. In court, I did not hesitate to take out the video of Lin Jinyan hitting someone to death. Facing the judge's questioning, Lin Jinyan stammered, Seeing Lin Jinyan stammering, Jianggan came out to testify on the spot. As an autopsy forensic doctor, I can provide evidence to prove that the three people died of their own illnesses, not from external forces, such as a car accident. What can you prove with just a surveillance video? Either show strong evidence or it's slander. Jiangwan was full of confidence. She took out the autopsy report and said that she really put in a lot of thought and means to help Lin Jinyan get rid of the crime. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Jiangguan's eyes flashed with a hint of provocation and pride. I said long ago that we can just solve it privately. What can you accomplish with the little evidence you provided? Now you've been frustrated and made a fool of yourself. Liang, who was standing beside her, said concernedly, "Don't be too angry, and Annan, don't let me destroy your relationship. Gu Ping, I also want to apologize to you. I didn't mean to do that to your parents." Annan said that 300,000 yuan can solve it, but I personally think that 300,000 yuan shouldn't be enough. As he said that, Lim Jinyan actually apologized to me in court and sought reconciliation. I looked indifferent. It's okay, I've let it go. I've sent you the card number, and you can transfer the money to this card when the time comes. I don't want much. 600,000 yuan is enough. My parents' leaves are worth 200,000 yuan anyway, and they're not that cheap. Faced with my sudden change of character, Jiangong was a little surprised, and Lin Jinyan's face was a little ugly when he heard me ask for 600,000 yuan, but he finally agreed. Seeing the transfer of 600,000 yuan, I smiled with satisfaction, and then said to Jianggan, "I have prepared the divorce agreement. Let's go get a divorce while the Civil Affairs Bureau is still open." And grabbed the divorce agreement and sneered, "You are not a man to divorce me for such a small matter." She threw the document on the ground and stepped on it a few times. Then she didn't even look at me and directly pulled Lin Jinyan away. "Before leaving," she said slowly, "you can be happy when you get the money. The lives of your parents and sister are only worth this much." I raised my eyebrows and didn't refute her. I still thought it was my parents who died, but after all, we are husband and wife. As a daughter-in-law, you should at least take a last look at my parents and sister, right? Just think of it as me seeing my parents off. Seiko, although Jianggan called me Seiko, he still went to the morgue with me. I have dissected these three bodies many times, but there is nothing to see. Jianggan looked impatient when she entered the morgue, but I took out the death certificates of the three people and said sadly, "Mom, Dad, Sister Jianggan is here to see." When she saw the death certificates in my hand, she was stunned for a moment. Her eyeballs exploded, and countless bloodshot burst out. Jianggan seemed to not believe it and rubbed her eyes. She snatched the death certificate from my hand like crazy. Her pupils widened. I silently looked at Jianggan's stunned look. Even if I told her this at the time, she would not believe it. It would be better to take out the death certificates and let her see it with her own eyes. Jiangbin took a few steps back, her body pressed tightly against the wall, her pupils trembling. "How is it possible? Aren't these three bodies your parents and your sister?" she murmured, then immediately raised her head and grabbed my collar, shouting, "Why are my parents and sister here? Aren't they your parents and sister who died? Jiangwan wanted to take a deep breath to calm herself down, but when she saw the three cold bodies, her eyes went dark and she collapsed to the ground. This made Jiangwan's colleagues a little confused. Autopsies require the consent of the family members. Didn't you receive the text message? We all thought you had adjusted your mentality a long time ago, so you agreed to dissect your family members yourself, just as a last look for them. Facing the reminders of her colleagues, Jiang Guan suddenly remembered something. She hurriedly took out her mobile phone from her pocket and kept swiping the text message interface with trembling fingers, but found nothing. I remember I sent you a message, but unfortunately you never read it. I glanced at the bodies of my father-in-law's family. In fact, after being hit, my sister-in-law died on the spot, and her brains were pouring out. My mother-in-law's heart stopped beating on the way to the hospital. My father-in-law died after being sent to the operating room. The family died tragically. Jiangben sat on the ground in a daze. A trace of confusion and despair flashed in her eyes, and her lips kept trembling. I didn't know that it was my parents' and sister who died. She spoke intermittently, and her colleagues saw her like this. I could only let her leave, but Jiangben was almost crazy, crawling to the corpse with his hands and feet, kneeling on the ground and crying. Mom, Dad, sister, wake up. I didn't know it was you who died. How could you leave me alone? It's fake. It's all fake. Jiangguang was still deceiving herself and looking for excuses for herself. She turned back and looked at me suddenly, her eyes red. Gu Ping, you must have paid someone to do something to my parents so they would act with you. You are all lying to me. Jiangguang completely collapsed, holding a scalpel and slashing at the air. I said to her calmly, Jiangguang, I know you can't accept the death of your parents for a while, and even perjured yourself for Lin Jinyan. When I called to tell you about this, you kept avoiding talking about it. Now you should wake up. Your parents and sister are indeed dead. I bit the last sentence very hard. Jiamun's face was pale, as if she had lost all her strength. She was helped away by her colleagues, and I stayed inside to calmly deal with the bodies of my father-in-law's family. When I thought about how she hung up on me one after another, thinking that it was my family members who died and I deserved it all, and condoned Lin Jinyan to use money to humiliate three living lives, I asked her, do you remember what you said to me in court at that time? Jiang Guan lowered his head, and I couldn't see his expression clearly. When he heard what I said, his body trembled. You said, 3 people died at once. Even the crematorium fees can be discounted, and we will be reunited in heaven. What else is there? Then are you satisfied Then are you satisfied now? I put on a smile, and Jianggan saw me like this, crying and almost fainting. She took 2 steps at a time, shaking her hands and grabbing my collar, tears bursting out of her eyes. Gu Ping, you did it on everything. You did it on parlor. Tears bursting out of her eyes. Gu Ping, you did it on purpose. You did it on purpose. You knew that it was my apparently didn't tell. Her voice was choked with sobs, and she could hardly speak. She smashed everything around her as if to vent. You must have done it on purpose. You made me dissect my parents' bodies to get revenge on me. Jianggan tried to put the blame on me, but I would not be stupid enough to take the blame. Jianggan, they were hit to death in front of me, and the whole person flew more than 10 meters away with blood and brains splattered all over the ground. Do you know how scary that scene was? I don't want them to die unclearly like this, and you, as a daughter, can help the perpetrator to give false testimony. I didn't lower my voice, which made other people in the corridor look sideways, as if they had heard some incredible gossip. Jianggan's eyes were red, and it took a long time for her to regain a bit of rationality. She reacted immediately and called Lin Jinyan. As soon as the call was connected, Lin Jinyan said very ambiguously, "What's wrong? Did you miss me?" The artificial voice was nauseating, and Jiangdin's face became a little ugly. She asked in a hoarse voice, "Did you delete my text messages? You told me that you were scared, that you hit Gu Ping's family and might have killed someone, and I gave false testimony to protect you. Do you know that if this matter is found out, I will also be in trouble? But why did you lie to me? You actually hit my parents and sister." She almost roared at the end. Xiangnan, who always paid attention to her image outside, is now no different from a shrew in the market. There was silence for a while on the other end of the phone, but Lin Jinyan smiled and comforted Jianggen and Anan. You misunderstood me. You deleted the text message yourself. At that time, I really thought it was Gu Ping's family. After all, they were so close, but I didn't expect it to be. Please accept my condolences. No matter what, life must go on, right? You have argued for me in court. Don't let your previous efforts go to waste. Only then did I realize that Lin Jinyan really wanted to kill my father-in-law's family. The fact that he could calmly talk about this call meant that he was an extremely dangerous person. The reason why Jianggan always believed that Lin Jinyan had killed my family was that he had been confusing people and conveying wrong information. After Lin Jinyan hung up the phone, Jianggan looked at the phone with empty eyes. The morgue cannot be kept for too long, so I agreed to send my father-in-law's family to the crematorium. Looking at his parents and sister, who were pushed out of the morgue, Jianggang murmured, So you all abandoned me, right? I glanced at her sideways, but I didn't feel much heartache. After all, if Jianggang hadn't been unable to let go of his first love, he wouldn't be so miserable now. The die is cast, and she can only accept the fact that her family was wiped out. After the cremation of his father-in-law's family, the ashes were taken home by Jianggan. The people who used to live by her side have now become small urns. Facing such a scene, I still feel a little sad. The second trial will be held in a month. Even if the money is collected, the process has to go on. Before that, I moved out of the wedding house with Jianggan and rented a house outside. The next time I saw Jianggan, it was still at the gate of the court. I hadn't seen her for a while. She had lost a lot of weight, and her leather coat looked very loose on her. In contrast, Lin Jinyan beside her was in high spirits. Long time no see, Brother Gu Ping. Thank you for your advice today. Lin Jinyan raised the corners of his mouth and stretched out his hand to shake mine. He looked very confident about the second trial. After all, the first trial had not yet produced any valid evidence that he had killed someone. You look very confident. I ignored his outstretched hand. Lin Jinyan was not embarrassed either. They are all misunderstandings. Just resolve them. I have already talked to Enanan. She will continue to testify for me. As long as you accept the settlement, there will be no problem. Lin Jinyan proudly hooked Jianggan's shoulder, but Jianggan, whose name was mentioned, never spoke. I looked away and said nothing more. When the court opened, Lin Jinyan's lawyer worked very hard and tried his best to exonerate him. But Jianggan, as a witness, remained silent, which made Lin Jinyan a little anxious. Enanan, say something. At this time, I stood up and provided the evidence and transfer records of Lin Jinyan's previous settlement. When seeing the evidence, Lin Jinyan smiled disapprovingly. What kind of evidence is this? At most is that you accepted the proposal for settlement. But you are wrong. It was not my parents you killed, but the parents of your witness. Even if we are husband and wife, I have no position to accept reconciliation. Lin Jinyan's face looked a little ugly, and her eyes were fixed on Jianggan as if urging her to say something. I thought Jianggan would still be stubborn, but I didn't expect her to start with. Lin Jinyan hit and run, and the fact that I gave him false testimony at the time. Aren't you afraid of ruining your career by saying this? Lin Jinyan's veins popped out. He didn't expect her to tell the truth. Jianggan wiped away a tear. I cannot be a forensic doctor. I can go to jail, but I can't let my parents and sister die unclearly and let the murderer go unpunished. I pursed my lips and finally presented the strong evidence provided by the police. I want to sue Lin Jinyan for intentional homicide. Hit and run and intentional homicide are two different things. The development of the incident made Lin Jinyan completely panic. He wanted to try to prove himself, but the evidence from the police investigation for many days left him speechless. Due to sufficient evidence, Lin Jinyan was convicted of both hit and run and intentional homicide, and he will have to spend the rest of his life in prison. As for Zhang Man, although she gave false testimony, she took the initiative to stand up and had a good attitude. In addition, her colleagues proved for her that she suffered from depression because of this incident, so she was not held accountable for perjury in the end. Before Lin Jinyan was sent away, Zhang Man cried and asked him, "Why did you hit my parents to death?" Lin Jinyan just sneered. If your parents hadn't stopped us, we would have been together a long time ago. How can I not hate them? Just because of this little thing, Lin Jinian took 3 limbs. After leaving the court, Zhang Nan followed me closely. She clenched her hands, her nails deeply embedded in her palms, and walked quickly to me, hesitating to say something, but finally said, "I'm sorry." I raised my eyebrows and did not accept the apology. After all, it was her own fault that she lost everything. She had always kept in touch with Lin Jinyan before and after marriage. Her parents hated Lin Jinyan and thought that he had made their daughter lose her appetite. In order to maintain family harmony, I had always tolerated Jiangguang. Seeing that I didn't speak, Jiangguang lowered his head even more. "I know you are not forgiving me, but there was a reason why I was so cruel and said such ugly words at that time." She seemed to want to tell me something, but suddenly stopped talking. I no longer cared about what Jiangguang wanted to tell me. If there is nothing else, sign the divorce agreement. I took out the agreement that I had prepared long ago. I originally thought that with Jiangguang's personality, the divorce would not be so smooth, and she would definitely make a fuss for a long time, but I didn't expect it to be so calm. Even though we have been dating, and getting married for so many years, I have already kept Jianggan in my heart. I have repeatedly given in on the matter between her and Lin Jinyan just because I like her. Jianggan hesitated for a long time when signing her name, but still wrote down her name with gritted teeth. She seemed to have lost all her strength, and her originally slightly bent waist bent even more. Jianggan suddenly smiled and raised her head. "I'm not begging for your forgiveness, but after the divorce, can we still be friends? I don't have any family anymore." Her eyes were filled with tears, and after a blink of an eye, the tears slid down her cheeks. Her fingers weakly grasped the corner of her clothes. "Jianggas's family has become particularly vulnerable. Forget it. We have made such an ugly scene. There is no need to be friends. It is the greatest decency to sign calmly now." Jianggan's figure trembled slightly, and she did not refute the last sentence. When the property was settled after the divorce, Jianggan did not take the wedding house I bought. She forced a smile on her face. "I live in my parents' house." "You bought this house with great effort. It has not been easy over the years." "I live in my parents' house just as if they are still here with me. The reason why I moved out was that I felt that Jianggan would want this house. After I had a blind date with her, I decided that Jiangguang was my wife. In order to marry her, I worked hard for a long time before marriage and had some assets. After making money, I bought a sea view house in the suburbs by the sea according to her idea. I was silent for a while, but did not refuse. It seemed that Jianggan was feeling guilty for what he had done before, so he did not fight for the division of property. After the divorce schooling off period, remember to get the divorce certificate. Ever since her parents died, I haven't given Jianggan a good look. Whenever she heard my indifferent and distant tone, Jianggan's eyes would turn red. After all, I've never been so cold to her. She wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, nodded hard, and said in a choked voice, "Don't worry, I will satisfy you no matter what you want to do." Jianggan moved back to her parents' old house. Although this wedding house is still under my name, I don't plan to live in it anymore. Since I have to say goodbye to the past, I might as well say goodbye thoroughly. I resold the house and bought a larger one near the company. Jianggan is a real mama's girl. She is extremely dependent on her family. In order to please her, I bought a wedding house near her parents' home so that she could go back to her parents' home often in the future. But this also caused me to be too far away from the company. I had to get up in the early morning every day to drive to the company. Otherwise, I would miss it during the morning rush hour. For so many years, my sleep has always been less than 5 hours. Lack of sleep and excessive fatigue have caused me to have many physical problems. Thinking about it carefully for Jianggan, I seem to have lost myself. When my friends know about Jianggan and beyond Jiangguang's parents, they all sighed. In fact, when Lin Jinyan didn't come back, your relationship should have been pretty good, right? I was so envious of us brothers at the time. I didn't expect that we would really get divorced. In the end, it was Lin Jinyan's fault. I pursed my lips and didn't answer. In fact, it wasn't like that. Jiang Gong has always liked Lin Jinyan. For so long, I just pretended that she loved me. But fortunately, after the divorce, I can start my life again and don't have to be tied to Jiangun. After many days, just when I thought I could get the divorce certificate smoothly, Jiangun appeared in front of me. She was like a possessed person following me every day. I learned it from her colleagues that Jiangun has resigned and will never develop in the forensic industry again. I think maybe it is because of the autopsy of her parents that Jiangun has a psychological shadow. It is undeniable that asking Jiangun to perform an autopsy is my revenge on her. I know she doesn't believe what I said. After all, she only has Lin Jinyan in her eyes. Once the white moonlight returns, my second choice will be even more insignificant. It was raining heavily outside, and Jiangun was still standing downstairs in my house, waiting for me to come back from get off work. She cried and went straight into my arms, yelling, "Husband, where have you been? I can't find you at home. Mom, Dad, and my sister are not here, and I'm the only one in the house. I'm so scared." I suddenly felt a little puzzled. I had clearly vowed we'll be strangers again after signing the divorce agreement some time ago, but why did she act like a madman today? I frowned and immediately pushed her away. Jiangun, I advise you not to regret it. There are still 3 days left in the divorce schooling off period, and you can get the divorce certificate. If you don't want to fight another lawsuit, don't bother me. As soon as I finished speaking, Jiangun looked at me in disbelief. She stayed for a long time before she uttered a puzzled sound. "Divorce? Why do you want to divorce me? Have you fallen in love with someone else?" I rubbed my temples. I really didn't want to have anything to do with Jiangun anymore. Stop pretending, okay? We agreed that we have nothing to do with each other. Jianguan suddenly burst into tears and rolled around in the rain, causing passers-by to stop and walk. I looked grim, thinking about how to get Jianguan away. At this time, I received a call from the police. They wanted to tell me something about Jianguan. Before I got the divorce certificate, I was still her husband. From the police, I learned that Jianguan had gone completely crazy. In fact, when she saw the bodies of her parents and sister, I found that something was wrong with her. This time, coupled with Lin Jinyan's incident, she completely collapsed. The severe stimulation led to memory disorder. The neighbors next door saw her always walking around outside with ashes, which scared the children. After disturbing the neighbors several times, the neighbors chose to call the police. Now she no longer lives in her parents' old house, but in a nearby mental hospital. I don't know why she ran out today. Jianguang's memory is sometimes clear and sometimes confused. After calming down, her eyes became clear again. When she saw me, tears burst out of her eyes. "Yes, I'm sorry. Gu Ping, I don't know why I'm here. I know you don't want to see me, but I miss you so much. I'm sick." Gu Ping, she seemed afraid that I wouldn't believe it, and she took out the previous medical examination report from her bag. Last time in court, her colleague also testified that it was true that Jianguan was ill. Jiangun sniffed and smiled. "Forced lie. I was deceived by Lin Jinyan. He took out a lot of photos to prove that you cheated, so I have been so cold to you. I loved you, so I would be jealous. When you told me that your parents had a car accident, I subconsciously thought that your family members had died. I was in revenge, so I said such ugly words to you. But I didn't expect that after all the twists and turns. It was my parents who were hit and killed, and the person who hit was still Lin Jinyan." She took a deep breath and held my hand. I could feel that her body was still trembling, and for a moment, her heart was a little blah. "Don't worry, we will go to get the divorce certificate in 3 days, and I will never cause you any trouble." On the day of receiving the divorce certificate, Jianguan was accompanied by medical staff for fear that she would have a relapse. She wore a white dress, which was a birthday present I once gave her, and had delicate makeup on her face. She and I went into the Civil Affairs Bureau together. During this period, she remained silent the entire time, silently going through the process, signing and stamping. In the end, there was a red booklet in our hands. Unlike the marriage certificate, it had the 3 big words "divorce certificate" printed on it, which meant that for the rest of our lives, there would be no connection between her and me. The first sentence Jiangun said to me was, "Gu Ping, do I look good?" I vaguely remembered that when she wore this dress, she also asked me with a smile, "Does it look good?" My throat was a little dry and I couldn't speak. She didn't wait for my reply before she was taken away by the medical staff. I learned it from the medical staff that Jiangang is now less and less awake, and his suicidal tendencies are getting more and more serious. I took a last look at Jiangang and turned to leave. Not long after the divorce, I was promoted and will soon be transferred to another city. It will be difficult for me to come back. Before boarding the plane, my good friends came to see me often brought me to pieces of news. One is that Lin Jinyan committed suicide in prison. I heard that he had paranoia and was shouting every day, someone wants to kill him, someone wants revenge. I sneered, isn't this just asking for trouble? The second is that Jiangwang seems to be dead and died in a mental hospital. If you don't leave today, you can still catch up with her funeral. I was silent for a while, but still shook my head. No, I didn't ask about the cause of Jiangmen's death, but I felt a little regretful. Now that I've started a new life, I shouldn't continue to linger on the past.